Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sorry I haven't been paying attention. We're going to be doing something different tonight, which will be totally fine with everyone here in the clubhouse. But for those of you at home, bear with me. We're using 3 different video systems to do 3 different parts of this presentation tonight. That is with about 30 things that can glitch. The people here who are live, you're going to see it all anyway. Hopefully, it'll all go to the people at home. So, it'll be 2 broadcasts. The people at home watching YouTube, this will be a YouTube broadcast of Gary Wood's Topaz AI. And then there will be a second YouTube following immediately afterwards, which will be our nature competition. So for those of you at home, good luck. So you should have driven down here. Okay, let me bring up our announcements. Okay. Okay, upcoming meetings. The big one next Friday. Member forum on proposed AI competition rule. This is a listening one for us, for the competition committee and myself. Basically, any member involved in competitions, entering, has anything to say, we're going to have a forum. We'll have a podium up here with a mic. You come up, speak, whatever you can. We want to hear what you have to say. We'll have the competition committee up in front here as well. We'll be able to have a dialogue and really get... The third part of this is we need feedback from the club in terms of where to do this. This isn't as I look more and more into AI and other clubs, there is no answer to this. It's what any club wants to do. So we want to tailor this into what you want to do, so we need your input. So it should be fun next Friday. And I am also going to be broadcasting it out on YouTube. August 4th, our first photojournalism night of the new season as well. You could use the deadline for entering that is usually 48 hours prior to not the competition, prior to the showing. August 11th, our first creative competition of the new season will be a projection competition. It was listed as print originally. It is a projection, though, as well. That's August 11th. August 18th, our own Coleman Rosenberg will be giving a live lecture right here, creating great captures at events. There were a number of people who were shooting events, either on their own or through community service, that said, we'd like a little more guidance in terms of just how to use Flash, whatnot, how to set people up, how to do just events in general. And Coleman has done a fair amount of that and is going to be talking that night on that. So that's August 18th, creating great captures at events. Our first SIG meeting of the summer is August 3rd, black and white photography. Dave Bush is going to be talking on special techniques, exposures, and creating images with impact. 1/3 of the score, impact. So attend that. Anyone who was on the July 4th fireworks cruise, send me your images. We'll put them up on I've been behind a few days, but we'll get them up on the field trip page. Same thing with anyone on the Nelson Kennedy Ledges field trip. Send in your images. We'll get them up on the field trip page. Our summer CPS party, August 26th. Food, fun, games, fellowship, cameras, potluck. RSVP to info@clevelandphoto.org. It'll be at the Cleveland CPS Clubhouse. It'll be outside. I was just informed today, hours ago, that we are renting, not a food truck, we are renting hot dog grilling things too. We're going to be grilling up barbecue as well. So we will have this outdoors here on the grass. If it rains, we'll just bring the barbecue indoors here as well. So we'll be set for anything. Should be a lot of fun, August 26th. The month of July, Pixel Connection, I'm working with, and they have offered to discount sensor cleaning down to, I think it's about $20. You have to check on the website, but it's a heavily deep discounted sensor cleaning only for CPS members and only in the month of August 2023. So go to the CPS website, and this is another reason to get your credentials so you can sign in. Sign in, go to the member portal, and there you'll see the offer where you could get your coupon and whatnot for the discounted sensor cleaning. Portraiture and lighting course with John Soraya. He's offered to give that again. It'll be a 3-day course on Sundays in September, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're limiting it to 15 students. We've secured models for all 3 days. Course fee will be $150, and you can sign up on the school page of the CPS website. And fall school enrollment is open. We've really adjusted. We try to really keep up. A lot of the fundamentals lectures are little new lectures, updated. We've added some new things. Fundamentals is starting August 30th. Lightroom September 9th, and Intro to Photoshop, photo editing, September 11th. So those are all available for sign up on the school page. And again, this is the last slide you'll see of the new CPS website as it passes its first month. And my plea again, I know it's hard. If you've lost your email in terms of how to set up credentials, let us know. We'll send you another one. Also on the front page of the website, just down a little, we have put up, you'll see a website guide where we've posted how-to videos. So you'll see videos there in terms of how to get in your credentials, how to sign up, that type of thing too. So again, we urge everyone to sign up. And of course, all of our meetings are live on our YouTube channel and on demand. You click again, there is the YouTube button right there. Just click on that on our website. And when you get to the YouTube page, click on Live, and you'll see in date order all of our presentations. So at this time, I'd like to introduce one of our own, Gary Wood, who's going to talk to us on Topaz AI. And Gary, a little bit of background, has been an IT professional for 25 years, a physics professor for 15 years, and a photographer for 45 years. Short and sweet. That's it. So without any further ado, Gary is going to be talking on Topaz. And if you give me a second to switch over our video things, Gary will get underway. Okay.
To add a little bit to the introduction he gave you, I joined the Cleveland Photographic Society in 1981, give or take a little bit there. Around 87, life got too hectic, and I quit participating. I retired in 2017 and came back to the club. And I'm happy to be back, and I'm enjoying myself. And part of the reason things are so complicated tonight is because I have the license for Topaz Photo AI on my laptop. And I'm going to want to run demonstrations, so we need to connect my laptop up into your video system. So that's what I think we've done.
You're on sleep there, too.
Okay.
So let's see if this works. People at home, good luck.
Wait a second. Yep. Oh, I want to do go here. Oh, okay. Oh. Let me check a setting on my system here, because I'm not seeing what I thought I was going to see. It's supposed to be, okay.
It's going to work because he's either going to be looking at his monitor or this one up here. Don't worry.
Okay. So what is Photo AI is something I want to talk about tonight. I want to do a demonstration of a lot of the functionality in Photoshop, Photo AI. Oh, by the way, how much time do I have, Richard?
As much as you want. Let's say about 45 minutes.
Okay. Give me about a 5-minute warning.
There's no warning needed because there's no one waiting out there.
Okay,
And
okay.
whatnot. In other words, we're just going to start whenever you're done.
Okay,
So you're fine.
We'll wing it, okay.
Okay.
So I could show you some links to some of the help that's available from Topaz AI as well as the site on YouTube that I like. The reviews, the most recent review from DP Reviews was January. They're updating Photo AI every week. So the January review is already out of date. And I'll make some comments on that if we have time. And I have some questions to share with the club, and I want to take your questions. Okay. So if you go to their website, and why isn't it, there we go. They have a text box on there that says Topaz Photo AI and Image Quality Bundle. And it says AI combines the most used functionality from the bundle, which is sharpen, denoise, and gigapixel. And it adds autopilot, which automatically does the settings. It selects the subject, and it sets the settings for you automatically. So it's supposed to streamline your workflow. And it gets, as I mentioned before, it gets updated every week, which is a blessing and a curse. I'm constantly having to relearn things. But that's typical these days anyway, isn't it? And that was always true in AI and IT. Photo AI is supposed to give you the best overall experience in the long run. So again, Photo AI has denoise, sharpen, and they call it enhance on the interface, and they use other words elsewhere in their documentation. What it does is it enlarges, and it does the sharpening and the denoise within the enhancement. So that's similar to the denoise and sharpen. Oops, that's not what I wanted. That's similar to the denoise, sharpen, and gigapixel in the other products. It also has, in Photo AI, a face detect. Now, you people let me back up. I started using Photo AI this fall. I had heard about Topaz for a couple of years. I didn't really get it until this fall, and when I looked, it looked like the best option for me was to buy the Photo AI. So I haven't used their other products. You people that have used their other products, I'm going to ask you a couple questions later on. Basically, is there anything like face detection in those products? And the preserved text was just added this month. I haven't used it. I'm not going to talk about it. Okay, I haven't had a chance to work with it. So there is denoise, and denoise is what most of you are already familiar with. But I think it's impressive that it does such a nice job of maintaining those clouds. I think that's pretty neat. And we all know what sharpen is. And look at the nice job it does on the hair there. And upscale is one of the other words for their enhance. And you can see that it's not just, you can't see that it's making it larger in this display. This is simply one of their web pages I'm at. You can't see what it's making it larger, but you can see that it's cleaning up the image as well. And that's simply their upscale working. And recovering faces, if you have a pretty dirty face, well, they can clean it up for you. So I know Richard made a comment that he doesn't like how plastic the faces look, but if the face is this out of focus to begin with, at least this is some improvement to it. And they don't really have a good example except for this image of what their preserved text does. So this is what their original software did to the text. This is how upscale treats the text, and notice that the D is still not very sharp. And this is their new preserved text. Preserved text does not have an autopilot to it. You have to work with it manually. And again, I haven't had a chance to try it yet, so I'm not going to cover it. Okay, the demonstration. First, I want to show you how easy it is to work with the autopilot. So I'm going to go to Bridge. Okay, I'm not seeing it on the screen. Nope. Let's see what happens here. That doesn't look, it's not showing up. No, it's not showing up. Okay, I'm going to have to shut down the Let me see what happens if I close this. I'm going to close the PowerPoint. Okay. Okay. Good. So I want to zoom out so you see the whole image so that you can see. This shows you what is selected for a subject. So that's just the tops of the rushes that I took a photograph of the other day, which is the main subject. I'm happy with that. As far as noise removal, it's using its lower mode to do that, and very weak. And the sharpening, similarly, its lowest mode and not much strength. It's because I already have a good sharp picture. Okay, I can live with that. And you could decide to use this or not use this on this image from my point of view. And I can show you I clicked wrong here. Let me try and get rid of this. Come on, there we go. There's the after. This one, I was taking some friends, introducing them to a wilderness river that I like to canoe on. They were from Minnesota. Okay, where are you? They were from Minnesota and unfamiliar with alligators, and this river has plenty of alligators on it. So they were kind of nervous. But she was having a good time. It picked her as a subject, which is what I would like. If we look at it before it's processed, turn off the, so that's the before. It is kind of noisy. I had the camera set up to try and catch some great egrets in flight. So I had like, I was shooting at 1/2500th of a second, a fairly high ISO, and things are going to be grainy, but I figure I can clean it up with Topaz later on. I'm going to catch the shot and try to stop the wings of the great egret as it's flying. And in one of the later competitions, in pictorials, I'll show you what happened with that. So, going back to here, if I turn this back on, okay. It's now using a stronger mode, but not much strength for clean up the noise. I think it did a decent job there. The sharpening is using standard, but quite a bit of strength. And for the faces, it found that face. Now, let's zoom in on the face. And I'll turn off the face detection. And you see it's still a little noisy. Does that show up well enough on that screen, on the projection there? Yeah. Yep. Okay. And if I turn it back on, it cleans it up a little bit more. Okay. I think that's kind of nice. Okay. The next thing is I wanted to show you some more about recovering faces. My neighbor's daughter has been studying Irish dancing, and they had the first recital for the school a few weeks ago. And I walked in with my camera on my harness, on my chest with a medium-sized lens on it, and all the family's already in. There's no seating anywhere near the front part of the auditorium. I'm in the back with about a 3.25 millimeter equivalent lens. I'm taking pictures. And the lighting's changing chaotically. And I don't do this kind of stuff professionally. So I did the best I could. And this is what I got. And there it is before it's touched up. We pull it into Topaz. Why isn't it switching over to Topaz automatically? I don't know. Okay. So the subject is the girls. Great. It missed the feather at the top of the hat. Oh, okay, I can live with that. Noise is doing a fairly strong noise reduction. Sharpening, medium. Faces, it found 3 faces. That's good. Let's zoom in and take a look at the faces a little more. So there we see all 3 faces. And if I turn off face detection, you can see particularly these ones in the back that are not in the focus plane are pretty bad. But with face detection, it cleans it up enough so the parents could recognize the child. And this was my neighbor, so she... Yes?
Are you open for questions as you go through this?
Sure,
Yeah, just repeat the question.
I will.
It automatically, you just click it on and it is going to determine what it's supposed to do?
Right now I'm showing you how the autopilot works, okay? I will show you how you can make adjustments to things, okay? For example, as long as you brought it up, let's go back to faces. I can decide to add that face in if I want to. And I could turn hers off, for example. Okay? So I'm almost done with the part where I'm showing the autopilot, and then I'll start showing you how you can take control.
But autopilot, if you click on Topaz,
You open it up, it does its thing. What was that?
you don't have to know anything. That's the kind of software I like.
Okay, the question was, do you just open up the file and autopilot runs? And the answer was yes. And the comment back was, I like that. Okay.
Can I ask you another question?
Sure.
When you first open your computer, you have to click on the icon that says Topaz, correct?
I'm from Bridge. I'm using an Apple computer, so the terminology is slightly different, but I'll try to convert it to Windows for you. I'm basically doing a right click and selecting the right click menu from the right click menu to open this file in Topaz. That's what I'm doing tonight.
I guess the question
But
is, do you open the Topaz first, like
I don't have to.
how about Lightroom? Can you use Lightroom?
I didn't include that in my talk, but there are interfaces between Lightroom and Photoshop. They're plugins that link. You buy Topaz, and it'll also install plugins in both Lightroom and Photoshop for you. And I forget the technique to open it up.
On a PC, you have, when you buy the Topaz, the AI, or any of the Topaz products, you'll have a separate icon. You can open up that program, but it also exists as a plug-in in Lightroom and Photoshop. So if you're in there already, you can just go to your filters, and one of them will be Topaz. So you could do it either way.
Does that answer your question? Did everybody at home hear everything, I think?
Yes.
Okay. Any more questions before I continue? All right. So that's the part that I wanted to do in terms of what you can do automatically. Here's an example. It's not a particularly nice photo, but it works for for the demonstration I want to do. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm right-clicking. I get this pop-up menu, and I'm going to say Open with Topaz. So if Topaz is not already open, it'll open Topaz and then open up the file in Topaz, just through this menu. And I assume there's something similar in Windows?
Yes.
Okay. Now normally Topaz pops open, but for some reason with what we're doing tonight, it's not doing that, and I have to manually get to it. Okay. So I was at a preserve over in Catawba Island. I've been a longtime supporter of the Nature Conservancy and a volunteer for them. And I went there to do a site inspection, and I wanted to take some pictures to show them how far along the lotus are. A couple of weeks ago, they were in bud. So I'm just using this photo to show you what I can do. So there's not much noise here to work with anyway, so the denoise is not doing very much. But I would like it a little sharper, and I'm going to up the mode of it, and I'm going to set it to 19. And let's zoom in some more. So here it is before the process, and there it is. And I like how it sharpened it up a little bit. It's made it a little artificial looking, but I like the sharpness, and that's what I chose to do. You could also, if the flower was moving in the wind, you might have some motion blur, and then you could choose to have the motion blur filter, and it would try to correct for the movement of the flower. Okay? We don't have any movement here. Now, as Photoshop has seen how to improve it, these modes, some of them, the first two were there initially, they went away, and the second two came up, and then the first two came back. I hope that they're done with playing around with that. I'd like to keep what we have. We'll see what happens. Okay. Let's look at enlarging. Oh, I did that again. I'm so used to double clicking. Okay, I'm working on a photo show at the Rocky River Nature Center. It'll be the last week in August, the first week in September, as a memorial to my friend Bob Bodie, who passed away. And this is one of his photos that I'm going to use for the show. And this is called a stilt. The bird is called a stilt, but it's a kind of small image. I don't really want to use that as that small. So I want to turn on upscaling, but first let me show you that the subject is the bird. I'll turn on upscaling, and I'm just going to show you how powerful this is by choosing max. I want to do the max upscaling possible. Okay, and if I now switch this over to 100%, we have a decent sized bird. And it automatically does some cleanup of the noise and sharpening, but I'm not quite satisfied with the sharpening. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to use standard, and I'm going to set the strength to 40. And if you look along the neck here, I can now see the edges of those feathers are fairly crisp. And I've made it a very large image. Okay.
Gary, do you have a before of this upscaling? I mean, it's just,
I'll go
okay.
back to, I can do that. Okay, let me go back to bridge. So this is the before. Okay, and let's zoom in at 100. Okay, and we'll go over to the enlarged one at 100. Whoops, let me get back to 100. Oh, that's not right. I think that's 100 now.
Gary, how much of a percentage did you increase this?
6 times.
6 times so.
6 time sizes.
and
Okay.
what's the before?
Can you fill the screen with that so you can see the before?
So that was the same magnification in both images, was what I first had. And so this is now about comparable to what has been magnified to.
I think, is it doing preview when you left mouse click or something? I think that's showing you're going back and forth between preview and not preview.
I'm in Bridge right now. And
Yeah.
I have the original raw files, what you're looking at right now, and the other one is the finished one out of Topaz that I saved earlier.
Right, but without changing images, whenever you're left clicking on this or moving that, we're seeing the effect come and go.
What
I mean,
I,
that's
what
so-
I find on my computer in Bridge, when I'm moving an object, it softens the image. It's not giving me the full resolution, and then it brings back the full resolution after I stop moving. So that's something Bridge is doing to keep the image up for me. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. How does this compare to using Photoshop for enlarging? Any
Well, are you enlarging, are you talking about upscaling?
upscaling?
So it's upscaling,
It's upscaling, but I also did the denoise and sharpening too.
right, which makes it hard to tell.
Okay.
In Photoshop, it also depends how you do it. If you have a very small image and you just make it now 300 pixels an inch and a big one, you get not that great a result. But if you do it in 10% increments, you go from 100 pixels to 150 pixels an inch to 180 pixels an inch and two, it's a little better. But again, I've never seen any big change, and I have no idea how it compares, if anyone else does.
Okay. What did you say?
I found it to be pretty good enlarging. I use the AI.
You,
And the gigapixel.
oh, so you like the gigapixel, yeah, the Topaz gigapixel. Okay.
Which is, I guess, the enhanced now?
I've seen 3 different names in Topaz literature for the same thing. So I think enlarged makes more sense than anything they use, but
But I have a question then. When would you use, we're talking about sharpening, if an image is not sharp.
right.
So when would you use the gigapixel? Is that more or less, because if you have a high megapixel camera, you could really enlarge fairly well. So if you could enlarge fairly well, a good sized crop, and it looks sharp, is it when you don't see it looking sharp after a good sized crop that you might want to upsize? I mean, when do you upsize? Or just part of it?
I typically don't, but because I thought this stilt shot, the stilt again is the name of the bird, I thought the stilt shot was so nice, and I wanted to put it in the show, and I didn't want to have it be postage stamp size, I upsized it. And I didn't upsize it to 6, I think I did 2 or 3. But I was trying to show you how powerful Topaz is tonight. Ken?
Isn't the difference between Photoshop and this is the AI part of this? Photoshop, if you enlarge, as Bridget said, is strictly working with the pixels you have, where Topaz is using AI to interpolate and fill in the gaps as it blows it up, and therefore it's creating content to fill into. Isn't that the difference?
Yes. Let me repeat what Ken said. Ken says that Photoshop is simply working with the pixels you have and upscaling it, and Topaz Photo AI is using AI to interpolate the missing pixels and fill it in. Okay, Ken? Bill, excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's fine,
Bill.
but yes, that's what I'm asking. So this is actually using AI technology to fill in the
Yes,
gaps.
it is.
Photoshop is strictly working with the pixels.
Yes. And it's my hope that the competition will say, it's okay. Okay. Let me get back to the show. Have I answered all the questions related to enlarging? Yes, Ken?
I don't know if I'm jumping ahead or not on an overall workflow.
I don't normally, I didn't put it in the program, but let me address that.
Okay.
Somewhere in the Topaz early literature that I read online before I bought the product said it's best to use Topaz first.
And then go into
And then
Photoshop or
go into
Lightroom?
Photoshop and Lightroom.
Okay.
So that's what I do. I typically, from Bridge, put it into Topaz, clean it up in Topaz to where I like it, and then go on into Photoshop from there. I have a lot more material than what I'm using tonight. I could show you some of the finished. I have all the finished images as well, for example, but I don't want to take more than 45 minutes tonight. Any other questions? And I've got some time left. Okay, get out of here. Let me show you one of the things that can go wrong. Where did that come from? Oh, you're not seeing it. Oh, why aren't you seeing it? Oh. Let's get rid of that. Let's go back to here. You don't see it.
It showed up for a second. It was there.
Okay. All right. I have a solution.
It's there now.
Oh, it's there now? Okay. So this is what Topaz calls an anomaly. They admit it's not supposed to be there. And where it's coming from is the denoise. If I turn off denoise, it goes away. If I turn it back on, it comes back on my screen. Yeah, anyway, it comes back. Okay. So what I can do is go into noise and change the mode to something not quite as strong. And now it's cleaned up and the anomaly's not there. So you might run into that once in a while. It hasn't happened very often to me. And sometimes, in that stilt one I didn't point out, below the stilt there's a small pink spot for some reason, another anomaly. I think in that case I cropped it out anyway, so it didn't really bother. Okay. This is back at the preserve again. And I don't like that subject. I want the whole area. I'm going to go to landscape again. Okay. And I'll say yes to that for now. And I'm going to want to put some sharpening on. And I'm going to select lens blur, and I'm going to do 19 again. And I want to show you what I don't like about this. I don't like these fuzzy leaves at the ends of the branches that are blurry. I want everything sharp. What you can do is go back to subject, and you have brushes. And I am going to show you the traditional brush because you're all familiar with that. And I don't need that big a brush. I'm just going to use brackets just like in Photoshop to change the size of the brush. And I'm going to catch the edges of the tree here. And say I like that. And then we zoom in. And golly, I think that's better. Okay? However, what you don't see in Topaz and you will see in Photoshop is a problem. Let's do this. Can you see that slight difference in coloration in the sky here? Okay, the sharpened area is lighter than the unsharpened areas. Well, I don't like that. So go back in the Topaz, go back up to your subject. I'm going to clear the brush strokes and I'm going to say none. I think this is the wrong label. This none should be all. When you say there is no subject, it then sharpens the entire image. None means all. Okay? And if I apply that, then the leaves are sharp. I think this is the right one. I'm going to try it. There's no variation now in the sky. Everything's been sharpened, so it's all the same color. Okay? That's the easy way to do it. Okay?
What was the category that was under? I couldn't read the fine print on this.
In Topaz,
Yes.
I click on subject, and you have different subject types.
Oh, subject types.
So you have default, and it's picking a leaf. Blah. Okay, if I pick portrait, it picked the same leaf. That didn't make any changes. If I pick landscape, it picks everything that's green. Okay? And if I say none, it'll now sharpen the whole image. Okay? Let me check my notes and see if there was something more I wanted to show you. Not really. Here's another one of Bob's pictures. And to speed things up a little bit, I decided to sharpen it with strong and 61. And so there's the sharpened image. There's the before image. It's starting to get a little bit over sharpened right in there, that bright line right there. But when I set it for 100%, that's not big enough to bother me. I'm okay with it. Now, the subject is the bird, okay? However, it's missing some of the fine hairy tail feathers, okay? And it's also including some of the background, which in this case I think is sky. The sky and the water blends together so much that I'm not sure which one it is, and I didn't take the shot. But anyway, it's got parts of the sky. And if you go back in the Photoshop with this chosen, you're going to see that discontinuity of color again. Okay? So again, my solution for that is to go with none and apply it to the whole. And if I do that, and let me check my notes here. Okay, I want number 2. And Bob didn't keep his camera as clean as some people do. So he had a lot of sensor dust. So I had to go in and clean things up. So on this one, when I changed the dehaze to find the sensor dust, I also see this grid. Arg. And that's coming from the sharpening. Okay, so I had to go back, reduce the amount of sharpening, and apply it again, and then I got a good image. Okay, these are all the anomalies I'm familiar with. I've only worked with it for 6 months or so. okay, and not full-time. But so far, I haven't come across an anomaly I couldn't get rid of and still be satisfied with the results. Yes? Ah, okay, let me get back to the PowerPoint then. Anything else before I get rid of Topaz and Bridge? Yes?
Why do you recommend using Topaz first instead of alternatively using it as a plugin further downstream in your editor?
Topaz recommended that to me,
Okay.
okay? I don't know why. I followed their advice. Richard, you use some of Topaz products. Do you have any thoughts?
Oh, yes, I think this, you'll hear it done many different ways. What I don't understand about that approach is because if noise is brought out more, if you lighten shadow areas, if you use this first, then I go into Photoshop and I lighten it, I might be bringing out more noise there too. Whereas if I do all my lightening of the shadows and everything the way I want there, then my final image, I'm ready to get rid of the noise. So I really don't understand their rationale, but I've seen it written all kinds of ways.
Okay, I'll have to look and see about noise in my lightened areas. Yes.
I think that one of the reasons might be, and I've been using this for a while, they say that gigapixel, which was their enlarging or enhancing, you only use on raw files. So now that it's
Embedded.
embedded in there, it's possible they want you to use that first in case you decide to enlarge.
I see.
I could be wrong.
Let me repeat that. The comment was, and it's from somebody that's been using gigapixel for a while,
AI, yes.
AI,
And both.
that with gigapixel, you need to apply it to the raw files. And so since it's combined with the other ones in this product, that's the reason they're recommending it doing it first. That's a possibility.
Possible.
Yes, Ed?
So gigapixel will not work with JPEG, it has to be raw file.
That was my understanding, yes.
That's interesting, because there's so many proprietary raw, formulas out there.
I've-
JPEG
I've-
standardized.
I've used this with both Nikon RAW and Panasonic RAW files. And I know that's not all of them, but Panasonic is less common than Nikon. Any other questions? Okay, I have a few. I want to get back to my PowerPoint and wrap it up here. Okay, so I'm just going to go through these slides pretty quickly instead of going through the links. Topaz has a support page that looks something like that. They have a community page with other links on it, and a YouTube page that I like, and is that name big enough to read? Dave Kelly. I've looked at Dave Kelly's sites. He gives pretty good help in reviews, okay? And he has, his most current review is the current release. So he's staying very up on top of this thing, okay? I find him helpful. And he's the one that pointed out that the AI brush, which I didn't demonstrate tonight, I had planned to, but I was running out of time. The AI brush primarily finds edges. So if you're trying to select the water and not the land, it's helpful for doing that. For the reviews, I mentioned this DP review. The link is there. Again, it was published in January. It's already out of date. One of the things they complained about, there was no thumbnails for raw files. Well, when I bought it, there already was, so it changes quickly. He complained that it didn't fix exposure and white balance automatically. It wasn't intended to replace Photoshop. And as I showed you, sometimes it's easier to just say, don't select any subject, just process the entire image. And I agree with him on that one. He claims it's a $60 discount. Here's the prices, right? This was as of a couple days ago when I looked. So Photoshop AI was $199 and the bundle was about $260. I see it drop to $150 or $159 every few months. So if you're not in a hurry, keep an eye out for a sale. The other thing I read was that the denoise, the sharpen, individual programs have more control than Photoshop, than the photo AI. And Richard, do you think that's true from what you've seen so far?
No, I think they're both fairly versatile.
Okay. And if you have all three products, you can try the new one for free. There's a link available for that. And again, I like Kelly, and he has a review of the latest one. So I think we've talked enough about that. We've talked about that. Do you have any other questions? And I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gary. I am going to switch over video now, so we'll take a 2-minute break.